Hello YouTube, AlexG here. Thanks for tuning in this week. Got a little bit different video than the last few weeks here. I'm gained a few more subscribers and some more views on this channel. I really wanted to share my origin story about my experience in the hobby, what I've been doing, how long I've been doing it, just so you guys get an idea of where I come up with my ideas and my philosophies and ways that I like to care for animals. So like most of you, I'm sure there's something that always sparks interest in getting into the aquarium hobby. For me, winning goldfish at the fair and stuff was kind of the start, and honestly going to the Shed Aquarium for the first time when I was a little kid, definitely, I just saw these animals and I just had a real passion for them develop and wanting to learn more about them and understand them and raise them. So when I got a little bit older, I got my first aquarium from my parents. It was a 5-gallon hexagon tank. It was a small tank, just had a little hang-on back heater, and it kept a few tetras and an angel, and it just had an air bubbler. But it taught me some of the basics about keeping aquariums, and it kind of gave me a gateway into wanting to do more in the hobby. And ultimately, I ended up doing a lot more in the hobby. I'm not really sure, I did upgrade that 5-gallon in a big way. So I went from a 5-gallon freshwater tank to a 125-gallon saltwater fish only tank. And I have my dad to thank for that, really. I'm not really sure to this day if he wanted to start his own hobby in the aquarium side of things, doing saltwater, or if he was just trying to help his son start his hobby up. So, but either way, thanks, Dad. He got me hooked on it. My 125-gallon, and I'll show a couple pictures of it. I'll just be flat out honest with this tank. It was a nightmare of a tank. The people that sold us this tank, they didn't care about anything but money. They were just trying to sell us stuff. My dad wanted to try and avoid overflows and wet dries, and there really weren't any ways, and these people basically sold us on the idea that you could use Magnum 350 canister filters, and at the time, if anybody knows what they are, they're called quicksand filters. Both of those things I would label today as nitrate factories. They were horrible. My nitrates were always well over 80, probably well into over 100, constantly fighting red slime. The fish were always unhealthy. And it wasn't until several years into that tank that I actually had success with it when I started learning how to reduce my nitrates, which I'll definitely employ that into this system here if there becomes a need for it. So I at the time of having this tank towards kind of the end of its life cycle, I got old enough and I got my first job at a local fish store. Now, given my background of kind of being ripped off on fish and stuff, this local fish store really wasn't a great first job for me. And the reason why is that I ended up finding out that the owner of this store, he was kind of like the people that sold me my first tank. He only cared about money. He didn't really care about the animals. And it really kind of shaped my business ethics as a person, and just my ethics in general, because I refused to just sell people stuff to sell them stuff. They really couldn't care for it or shouldn't be buying it. I wasn't afraid to tell them no. And the owner did not like that at all, and I ultimately quit. Before I quit, though, I did start my very first Reef aquarium. I'll show a picture of it here. My first Reef tank, it was 15 gallons, and I know it was covered in bryopsis, and I actually, I just learned to live with it. The corals were very happy. They would grow very well in that tank. Matter of fact, they grew so well, while I was still at that first local fish store that I ended up quitting from, I ended up taking that 125-gallon fish only tank, which I finally kind of gotten under control as a fish only and had a pretty healthy level of fish in, and decided to convert that from fish only into a full reef. I put power compact lighting over it. I threw all kinds of live rock in the tank. And I'll show a couple pictures here. The tank really didn't do that great either as a reef. That 125, I ended up making my own hang on the back for it. And when I started working at the second local fish store I was at, I had it going for a while, but it just got covered in hair algae. And at the time, I felt it was a little bit too big of a project. And when I realized a lot of the causes for me to have the hair algae and stuff, I realized it was easier to just scrap that tank altogether. And that's when I just took the 125 down completely. But I kept the 32 cube that was serving as the sump / refuge tank for that 125. I converted that 32 cube that was a refuge into its own reef with a metal halide. So that was the beginning of my clam phase, and I loaded up with clams pretty good. Here's a picture of that tank. That tank was kind of the start of me getting really into clams. Ended up getting my first mantis shrimp, which I'll show you guys a picture here. Really love mantis shrimp. And at the new local fish store I was at, not only was I learning a lot about corals and clams and all the other marine animals out there, I was also learning a lot about freshwater cichlids and planted tanks. It kind of just spurred my hobby on a little bit more. And then when I outgrew that 32 cube, I ended up starting up 60 that was 48 by 24 by only 12 inches tall with a couple 175 watt metal halides. That became my clam tank. Here's a picture of it here at its height. Again, you know, I had a lot of algae and stuff. I was keeping a dirty tank, but the clams loved it. They were thriving and they were doing great. I ended up starting 85 gallon African cichlid tank, and I kept that for a while. Then I just got a little bored of it, I guess. It wasn't enough of a challenge for me compared to the reef that was on the other side of the room. And bear in mind, while now I have my 85 gallon cichlid tank, 60 gallon reef tank, and then I also had a little mantis shrimp on my desk in his own little tank, which I'll show you guys here. I had him for several years, and he was just the coolest little thing. It really showed me how intelligent mantis shrimp really are, keeping him at my desk all the time and being able to watch them while I was on my computer. I had all these tanks running. I was a full-time student. I was running about 35 hours a week in the pet store, and then I had another job on top of that doing aquarium maintenance for a good friend of mine, and did maintenance on basically businesses and homes. So I did that for several years. When I got bored of the cichlids, I decided to convert that into an 85 gallon planted tank because I figured I wanted a little bit more of a challenge. And then the big blackout of 2002 hit. I was in the Metro Detroit area I was living at the time, and was actually driving home from vacation when that happened. Now, based on all this stuff, I had all these tanks going. We had the power outage. I thought everything fared pretty well. My planted tank didn't have any loss. My clam tank, I think I lost maybe 3 or 4 clams, but I just kind of got to that point where I said, wow, you know, I need to stop. I was getting to be my later years in college. I had a girlfriend that was getting to be a serious relationship, so I ended up tearing everything down, sold it all off, which I kind of regret doing because my very first original corals I had, which was a green Weslophilia, white bubble coral, and a frog spawn. I ended up selling those, so it was kind of a bummer in that respect because I really do feel if I kept tanks going, I'd probably still have those corals today. They'd probably be gigantic, but I'd still have them. That's kind of where I ended, that phase of keeping aquariums. I ended up moving out, getting a home later. I started African cichlid tanks again, kept those for a few years. And then I kind of stopped everything altogether, but then I started getting the itch for reef aquariums back, and I started my 120 gallon, which I'll show you here. I had that tank up for less than a year, and I got a new job. I had moved from Michigan to Illinois, so that's where I'm currently at, in this Illinois outside the Chicago area. And that's where this thing got started, because I wanted to do something more along the lines of my dream system. But that's kind of where I came from. And I just wanted to add, I always build things and do things on this system based on my experience or my research. There's a lot of great forums out there and YouTube channels that show a lot of great stuff. I have to give an absolute thank you to the DIY King for teaching me how to build plywood aquariums. He was the inspiration behind this build, and that's what made me, finally settle on doing plywood tanks and building this. I want to just send a real thank you to him. If you haven't seen him, it's DIY King on YouTube. There's a lot of great videos, does mostly freshwater stuff, but still it could be used for any kind of aquarium. I just wanted to add to, this hobby is one of those things that there's a million and one ways to do things. If you don't agree with something I'm doing, that's just fine. I've made mistakes, and I'm sure along the road with this system here, I'm going to make several mistakes too. But I also feel it's important to share this information, because that's how we could further this hobby along and learn how to maintain these animals and keep them going for even longer periods of time. I'm on the Reef to Reef forum. My username's AlexG. And I do keep a build thread on there, and it's probably the best community I've ever been involved with. So if you haven't visited that website before, it's reef2reef.com. I'd highly recommend signing up for their forum, or just cruising around for a bit. There's a ton of really valuable information, and there is an incredible level of experience spread throughout that forum on pretty much every aquarium related topic that you can think of. So thanks for watching. I will have more update videos coming on the 1600 gallon system once I get more progress done. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video.